Turning now to an open letter to the next Parliament of Australia. It's been organised by the Australia Institute. Ben Oquist, Executive Director, joins us. Ben, let's look at the signatories to this. Can you tell our viewers who is on this list? You've got 62 people that have signed up.
62 climate scientists, experts, eminent Australians. Climate and Energy Director Richie Merzian and the former Chief Scientist will formally release the letter at a press conference here in Parliament House later today, making an urgent plea to whoever wins the next election to make reducing Australia's emissions a top priority. That full-page ad in the paper today features that kind of now infamous graph that shows Australia's emissions are rising and steadily rising, something, of course, that the Prime Minister did admit during the election campaign. And what these 62 people are saying is that it must be a top priority for the new Parliament to turn these emissions around. Australia is one of the world's leading emitters, despite what you hear, and we've had six years, really, of climate and energy policy chaos. And
when you say leading emitters, that's obviously per capita you're talking.
Well, actually, on real terms, Australia is one of the world's major emitters. We're in the top 20 at about 16. Now, as one of the major emitters, it's a responsibility. Of course, Australia alone can't solve climate change, but if Australia doesn't act, why will the rest of the world act? Why would all those who emit slightly less than Australia?
The next government to do? Because a lack of bipartisanship in this area has been a great cause of concern for energy prices and climate action over the last decade or even more. So are you realistic about what a parliament can achieve given the disparate views?
Yeah, I think the key thing is that there are a number of different mechanisms you can use to reduce emissions. Yes, there is a carbon price. Yes, there is a renewable energy target. Yes, forms of direct action can also reduce emissions. But here's the key thing. You've got to reduce emissions, and that's what's not happening. So, yes, bipartisanship can be a road, but you can also reduce emissions without legislation. And I think that's the big thing, is that after the election, we don't want to wake up and think we're going to have another 6 years or more of climate and energy uncertainty. One of the things that led to the neg, of course, was that a lot of experts, economists and others said that we needed to integrate climate and energy policy. And until you integrate climate and energy policy, you won't reduce emissions, you won't lower costs, because you won't have the certainty to drive increased supply, which drives down costs, or get the reliability. So in broad terms, you've got to have a plan to lower emissions, and you've got to integrate climate and energy policy.
The poll today, the YouGov Galaxy poll, has the polling very close, very tight in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. One of the key issues that has been cited by those surveyed is the issue of climate change. Has there been an increase, do you think, in this as the potency of this as an issue since 2016?
Yes. The Australia Institute's Climate of the Nation program, which tracks over time people's attitudes to climate change, we're back at near 2007 levels, and interestingly, Al Gore is about to be in Australia and has spoken out today about the need for all sides to tackle climate change and reduce emissions. And we're back to those levels when Al Gore's movie was out, when the drought was on. We're seeing those levels of concern, and I think that's what's happened during the debate. Yes, at the beginning of the debate there's all these talk about the costs of taking action on climate change, but I think as we move towards the end, it's becoming a very potent political issue for those wanting some action on climate change.
Ben Oquist from the Australia Institute, as always, appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, the sport now with Catherine Durkin, and decision on Israel-Folau's future is pretty close.
Yeah, we're told to expect one in the next 24 hours, guys. Good morning again to you. As to whether Rugby Australia will be allowed to terminate his contract as they wish to do, the saga has dragged on for so long, there's a possibility